shoot shall come out from the stump of Jesse, and a branch shall grow out of his roots. The Spirit of the Lord shall rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and the fear of the Lord. His delight shall be in the fear of the Lord. He shall not judge by what his eyes see, or decide by what his ears hear. But with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and decide equity for the meek of the earth. He shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall kill the wicked. Righteousness shall be the belt around his waist, and faithfulness the belt around his loins. The wolf shall live in the land, the leopard shall lie down with the kid. The calf and the lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. The cow and the bear shall graze, their young shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. The nursing child shall play over the hole of the ass, and the weaned child shall put its hand on the adder's bed. They will not hurt or destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. On that day, the root of Jesse shall stand as a signal to the people. The nation shall inquire of him, and his dwelling shall be glorious. The New Testament reading is from John, chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being. What has come into being? In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness to testify to the light, so that all might believe through him. He himself was not the light, but he came to testify to the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him, but the world did not know him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. But to all who received him, who believed in his name, he gave power to become children of God, who were born not of blood, or the will of the flesh, or the will of the man, but of God. And the Word became flesh, and lived among us. And we have seen his glory, the glory as of the Father's only Son, full of grace and truth.
Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for this wonderful Christmas season where we could remember the greatest act of love in history when you took on human flesh and dwelt among us. And even as we contemplate and reflect on that during this time, we pray that you would speak to our hearts through the working of your Holy Spirit. Remind us of your truth. And I pray now that you would let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight. For you are our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. I remember a tradition in my family during Christmas when I was little was that nothing would be decorated. So as we were approaching Christmas and Christmas Eve, the house would just look like it normally looked. Nothing was decorated, at least on the inside, and nothing was there. And we would go to bed Christmas Eve, and we would wake up Christmas morning, and the living room was decorated with a tree. It had decorations on it. It had presents all around it, and it was actually overwhelming. I remember many a time going to bed and thinking, tomorrow's Christmas morning. What's going to happen? What's going to be? And we are 5, 6 years old, 7, 8, 23. And I would get up in the morning, and the lights would be on, the Christmas lights are on, and it was just overwhelming. And that moment of anticipation, as I was looking forward to that moment, And then realizing that moment on Christmas morning, it was so much more than what I expected. As a little child, we can't conceive of how big God's work is. And even as adults, we can't conceive how big God's work is. And I think when we think about Christmas, I think we need to think about this idea that oftentimes we believe that God is going to do this. Like God is going to send a Redeemer, right? But he sent much more than that. That the work of the Redeemer was not just to redeem Israel, but it was to redeem the world. And this shoot that is coming from the stump of Jesse is the evidence and the prophecy concerning that. So I just want to take a few moments and look at the book of Isaiah in chapter 11 and just contemplate these words. Hear this. Isaiah 11 verses 1 and 2. It says, "A shoot will come forth. It will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots a branch will bear fruit. The Spirit of the Lord will rest on him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and power, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord." Isaiah wrote these words, and during a time of tumultuous activity in the time of Israel. Judah, if you know, Israel has been divided into two kingdoms at this point. You have the northern kingdom, which is known as Ephraim, and you have the southern kingdom, which is called Judah. And Isaiah was a prophet to Judah, the southern part of the kingdom. And interestingly enough, in the beginning of Isaiah's ministry, the first 6 chapters is during the reign of King Uzziah. All right, and King Uzziah, Isaiah was more like a historian. He wasn't quite called to be a prophet yet. And here he is in the king's house. He is kind of like recording the records or the activities of King Uzziah. And so he's kind of like a historian, and he's writing everything down. But then you come to chapter 6, and Isaiah has this incredible vision of God in the temple, and the robes of the temple filled the whole temple, and they just got this image of God that is so powerful. And God calls him to be a prophet. And God calls him, he says, "Woe is me, I am a man of unclean lips," right? He says, I'm unworthy of this. And then God sanctifies him and sets him apart for the purpose of being a prophet. And so from chapter 6 on, we see that Isaiah is in function as a prophet. And like I said before, these were tumultuous times. Israel has gone through several kings during this point. Judah has gone through King Uzziah, who was a good king. He was not a bad king. But then you had Jotham, and he was a good king. And then you had Ahaz, who was not a good king. All right, and a lot of corruption and a lot of bad things happened during the time of King Ahaz. And then you have King Hezekiah, who was a good king. And so during the time of Isaiah's prophetic ministry, there were 4 kings, one of which was not so good. And then you have the kings in the northern kingdom, in which a lot of them were not so good either. King Ahaz is the king at the time when this prophecy is written. So when Isaiah 11 is being recorded that a shoot will come forth from Jesse, this is during the reign of King Ahaz, who was not a good king. In fact, during this time, Israel fell under much corruption. Ahaz did not trust in the Lord. And if you were to look at one of the themes of the book of Isaiah, one of the themes is don't trust man, trust God. And the whole thing is that our sinfulness and Israel's sin was that they continued to trust in themselves or trust in the nations around them, and that only reaped more and more trouble for themselves. And as a result, it created a desire on the part of the people to cry out to God for a Redeemer, to cry out to God for redemption. And that is a part of the context of what's happening here. So Ahaz didn't trust in the Lord. In fact, he trusted in man. During this time, Ephraim, the northern kingdom, made an alliance with Syria. And Syria existed back then, so we see that. And they made an alliance with Syria because they wanted to go against Assyria. And they wanted to fight against Assyria, who was a threat to them. But Ahaz didn't want to align himself with Ephraim and with Syria. So what ends up happening is the king of Syria and Ephraim came together and they said, we're going to attack Judah. We're going to attack the southern kingdom and force them to fight with us against Assyria. and Ahaz goes to the king of Assyria. So he hears about the threat from Ephraim, the northern kingdom, and instead of trusting in the Lord, he goes to Ahaz, their mutual enemy, and he aligns himself with Ahaz. And he says, look, I need your help. They're threatening me. And so Ahaz comes in and he conquers Syria and he conquers the northern kingdom. And as a result, Ahaz now has to align himself and give tribute to Assyria. So with the Assyrians' help, Ahaz is victorious, but not without consequence. Judah had now to pay tribute to Assyria. And if you know anything about countries that are your overlords, who are not very good to you, they'll accept tribute at first, and then they'll expect more after that. So what ends up happening is he gives tribute to Assyria, and then Assyria, and in this case, the leader of Assyria at this time was Tiglath-Pileser III. You can remember that one for your vocabulary. And Tiglath-Pileser III says, I want more, and I want more. And so he demanded so much more that Israel had a hard time doing that. But as Ahaz had become idolatrous in the process. So not only was he giving tribute to them, not only was he not being obedient to the Lord, not only was he not trusting in the Lord, but he had become a part of what they did. So he began to worship the gods of Assyria. So instead of worshiping the Lord, he began to worship the gods of Assyria. In fact, he worshiped them so much so that he built a replica of the Assyrian temple, the altar inside the temple of Assyria, and he put it into the house of the Lord. He brought this pagan altar and built it inside the house of God. And then eventually he sacrificed 2 of his children on the altar and killed them in the name of a false god and a fake god. And so in the midst of all this tumultuous activity, in the midst of all this idolatry, in the midst of all this rebellion, in the midst of all this hatred towards God, Isaiah prophesies and he says, there shall come forth a rod out of the stem of Jesse. You see, this is the Christmas story. And what's interesting is because it's the Christmas story, it's reflecting upon us, look, we're sinners. We fall short of the glory of God. But the gift of God is eternal life. That even while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. This shoot that will come from Jesse will be the one who redeems us. In fact, it's interesting that it uses interesting terminology here. It says, and a shoot will come forth out of the stem of Jesse, out of the stump of Jesse. And what's interesting about that is Assyria, who is the enemy, right? Assyria was known for its large, enormous forests. The trees of Assyria were known for their strength and their power. And so, and Israel being a tree, think of Israel one tree in the midst of Assyria's many trees, Israel will be cut down. Judah will be cut down. And it will seemingly look insignificant at that point, because the stump of a tree very rarely comes back to life. When you see a stump of a tree, it's usually dead, and that's it. But the promise of God is that the roots of Israel are deep, and that the promises of God will bring forth a stem, or a root, or a shoot from this stump, which will come alive. Isaiah uses a metaphor to show that Israel and eventually Judah shall be cut down for their idolatry and will be reduced to insignificance. And he states that a shoot or a branch shall come forth from Jesse. Interesting enough, why does he use the word Jesse? He doesn't use the word King David. And out of the line of David will come a redeemer, right? No, he says out of the line of Jesse, who is David's father. And David's father is from Bethlehem. That city of little notoriety. So in other words, this stump, which is insignificant, Jesse, who is from Bethlehem, a town of little significance, something great will come forth. Something awesome will come forth. And it says says, yet out of the stump or the shoot or a branch, which will come forth with great significance. Some have thought that this may be a prophecy concerning the next king, Hezekiah. And Hezekiah was a great king. He brought many reforms back to Israel. But he's not the shoot that is being spoken of here. Because this has to do with something in the future. And when you hear the prophecy concerning this shoot that will come forth, it's pretty obvious that it can't be Hezekiah. Listen to these words from our scripture reading this morning. A shoot will come forth. A shoot will come up from the stump of Jesse. From his roots a branch will bear fruit. And the Spirit of the Lord will rest on him. The Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and of power, the Spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. And he will delight in the fear of the Lord. He will not judge by what he sees with his eyes, or decide by what he hears with his ears, but with righteousness he will judge the needy. With justice he will give decisions for the poor of the earth. He will strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips he shall slay the wicked. Righteousness will be his belt, and faithfulness the sash around his waist. You see, get the imagery here, is that here we have a corrupt king. And the people are longing for deliverance. And they're saying that one day there will be a righteous king. One day there will be a king who will judge with justice. But it's not this one, and it's not the next one. Because Hezekiah was a sinner just as much as anyone else. But then it goes on and it gives these words, which gives us an image of the future. Not just the coming of Christ in the sense of his birth, but the coming of Christ in the future, with the second coming, when God's eternal kingdom will be established. And it says this, the wolf will live with the lamb, right? That's not Hezekiah. It says here, the wolf will live with the lamb. The leopard will lie down with the goat, and the calf and the lion and the yearling together, and a little child will lead them. The cow will feed with the bear. The young will lie down with together, and the lion will eat straw like the ox. The infant will play near the hole of the cobra, and the young child will put his hand into the viper's nest. They will neither harm nor destroy on all my holy mountain, for the earth will be full of the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. In that day, the root of Jesse, Jesus, will stand as a banner for the peoples. The nations will rally to him, and his place of rest will be glorious. You see, this is not just about the first coming of Jesus, but it is about the second coming of Jesus, when God's eternal kingdom will be established and peace will reign forevermore, right? And he shall reign forever and ever, we sing in Hymn of Messiah. And it's a powerful image, because this is the time that we are longing for, when sin will be no more, when death will be conquered, and the grave will have no victory any longer. This is the image that Isaiah wants us to see, that there's going to come one who will not only accomplish all that God has sent him to do, but he will establish a kingdom of peace forever, of which nothing will stand against it, to the extent that peace will be so great that the lion and the lamb will lay together, that a child could touch the cobra and not be bitten. All those things, these are things that we long for when sin will be no more. But the problem is this, is that our dilemma, our sin, needs to be dealt with first. Because how can we be a part of a kingdom in our own unrighteous standing? You know, we are still sinners. We are still in need of redemption. So we can't even be admitted into this eternal kingdom unless God does something for us in between the time of Isaiah and the time in which God's eternal kingdom is established. And that is the birth of Jesus we're looking at. That this shoot that will come forth from Jesse is about Jesus, who will be born to accomplish for us what we cannot do for ourselves. That God is going to deal with our sin so that we can have admittance into his kingdom. You know, the wages of sin is death. I didn't shut up the kids this morning. But the Romans 6 says the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life in Jesus Christ. You see, our sin has to be dealt with through Jesus in order that we may get the gift of God, which is eternal life. And that is the way our redemption is accomplished. And that is what takes place now. That is what takes place when Jesus was born, that he has come to die to prepare his people for the eternal kingdom. You know, Jesus even said in John 14, what does he say? He says, if I leave you, right, I go to prepare a place for you, so that one day you may be where I am. You know, and that's beautiful imagery because Jesus is doing all that he was sent to do. But first, he needs to die on that cross. First, he needs to provide redemption for his people. That our sin will be laid upon him so that his righteousness can be imputed to us. So that, like in Hebrews chapter 10, it says we can boldly approach the throne of God with confidence because Jesus' work was so sufficient that we are able now in him to approach God himself. But this has to be accomplished through the birth. God has to come among us. Listen to these words from Isaiah's prophecy in chapter 9 of Isaiah. Isaiah chapter 9. And we hear this a little bit in the Gospel of John that we read earlier. It says this. It says, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light, right? On those living in the land of the shadow of death, a light has dawned. You have enlarged the nation and increased their joy. They rejoice before you as people rejoice at the harvest, as men rejoice when dividing the plunder. For as in the day of Midian's defeat, you have shattered the yoke that burdens them, the bar across their shoulders, the rod of their oppressors. Every warrior's boot used in battle and every garment rolled in blood will be destined for burning, will be fuel for the fire. And why is all that? For to us a child is born. For to us a child is born. To us a son is given. And the government, right? His kingdom. The government will be upon his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting God, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his kingdom or government and peace there will be no end. See, this is what Isaiah 11 is talking about. Establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. You see, that's the power of the imagery that Isaiah is conveying to us. That in chapter 9, he's talking about this coming child. This child who's to be born. In chapter 11, he's talking about this shoot coming from Jesse. He's consistent in his teaching. But then he has to talk about that restoration. And that's what we see in chapter 53. In Isaiah 53, a very familiar passage for most of us is the suffering servant. What will happen with this suffering servant? Listen to these words from Isaiah 53. Who has believed our message? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, a shoot coming from a stone. And like a root out of dry ground, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. And understand, he's talking about insignificance, right? Isaiah 11, the shoot will come forth from Jesse, a stump which has little significance. Jesse, who was from Bethlehem, a town with little significance. And it says here, he had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows, yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. I'll stop there. But you understand the context of what Isaiah is doing. What Isaiah is doing is, in the midst of all this sinfulness in Israel, Isaiah is saying there's going to come one who's going to establish an eternal kingdom of peace. And that's coming. But before that kingdom can come, this man of righteousness must come and bring redemption to his people, must bring salvation to his people, must bring the gospel, the good news that Jesus has come and dwelt among us. So, the people who have walked in darkness have seen a great light. We see that. God, in His infinite love for us, came among us, taking on human flesh. He redeemed us on the cross, and now we await His coming again, when Isaiah 11 will be fully fulfilled, and His reign and kingdom will last forever. That is what we anticipate as believers today. As believers today, we rejoice in the birth of Jesus, but we also anticipate His coming with excitement and with, we know it's coming, but we have no idea how big it will be. It will be so much more than what we can believe. So Christmas is a time of anticipation. We anticipate the coming of Jesus. We anticipate all that He is going to do. It is a time of restoration. It is a time in which God has come among us in order to provide redemption and salvation for us. And it is also a time of hope. A time of hope in which we can say, God has come. God has redeemed. And we long for the day when He comes again and He establishes that eternal kingdom where He will reign in peace, and turmoil and sin will be no more. The grave will be gone. Death will be vanquished, and we will dwell with our King forevermore. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank You for this morning, and I thank You for this day. I thank You for my brothers and sisters, and I pray that You would speak to our hearts through the work of Your Holy Spirit. In Jesus' name we pray. At this time, we'll give